Director of IFC's East Asia and Pacific Department, Vivek Pathak, told the local media in Vientiane very recently that his organization supports Laos' sustainable economic development by investing in commercial enterprises.
The economy seems to have been doing pretty well, and the expectation is it should continue to do well for the next few years. And if you look at it and compare it to some of the other countries around the world, or similar countries, I think this country is much better positioned for two reasons. I think there's overall peace and stability here, and the economy is pretty stable.
In an interview with local media, Mr. Vivek Pathak, Director, East Asia and Pacific Department, World Bank Group International Finance Corporation, who is paying a working visit to Laos, has highlighted interesting issues with various government officials and the private sector.
So the meetings were very positive, I have to say. The government is very open and they are a great partner for us.
It is highlighted that International Finance Corporation, or IFC, a member of the World Bank Group, will continue to cooperate with local banks to expand small-medium enterprise, or SME, development in Laos.
We discussed these three things. We discussed hydropower, we discussed access to finance, we discussed value addition in the mining sector. We also discussed the role that Laos can be playing as the chair of the ASEAN, the possibility of logistics for the ASEAN coming out of here. We discussed the possibility of more value add in the manufacturing side.
According to Director of IFC's East Asia and Pacific Department, Vivek Pathak, IFC does not lend directly to SMEs, he said. He said, "We are not structured in a way to be able to lend to SMEs, so we typically lend to SMEs through financial intermediaries, which is banks, microfinance institutions, non-banking finance companies. So in Laos, IFC is trying to work with banks in particular. It has now started relationships with several and will continue to further expand these relationships."
Which I think we would like to work on is access to finance. And access to finance is crucial in any economy, because if your SMEs and your small business groups do not have access to capital, it's going to be hard for them to grow. And right now I think there is a gap in Laos, and we've been working on that over the past few years, and we'd like to continue working on that part of the economy.
Vivek Pathak also describes typically IFC would provide finance to a bank or microfinance institution, and they would then on-lend to micro companies and SMEs. The other way IFC supports SMEs is through a credit program that can sometimes set up lines of credit for commercial banks, with the ultimate beneficiaries being SMEs. This would facilitate greater opportunities for SMEs as well as boost national economic growth. It is said that since 1998, IFC has provided more than $60 million in equity and loans indirectly to Lao companies, which has helped improve the country's investment climate to attract more quality foreign investors. IFC works with banks and other financial institutions as well as related government authorities to improve access to financial services among business. IFC is also assisting SMEs, which make up more than 90% of Laos' private sector, by helping to set up an online movable collateral registry. The registry makes it easier for borrowers to obtain loans by pledging equipment and inventory rather than land titles or property as collateral.
The one sector in which the country has done well is the hydropower sector, in terms of developing the sector, in terms of developing an export market for this sector. So that's, I think, a very good sense that one has, that there's positive movement and the country has done well. The country today is an exporter to Thailand. We think it can be a major supplier of what I would call sustainable energy in the immediate region. So that's something we would like to progress with the government. It could potentially export into Myanmar, it could potentially export into Vietnam.
In Laos, IFC serves sectors such as infrastructure, including hydropower and transport, along with banking, financial services, manufacturing, and tourism.
So the ASEAN is a fairly sort of wide range of countries. So you've got Singapore, which is in a different stage of development, and then you've got Malaysia, and then you've got the middle income countries, and then you've got Laos, Cambodia, Myanmar. So clearly each set of countries is going to have different objectives that we would like to achieve there. But in terms of commonality, I think there are 2 or 3 things that we would like to see achieved. One is the possibility of a development of a common capital market. And interestingly, this has been tried in places like Latin America and has worked. Because many of these markets on a standalone basis are too small to attract international investors. But when you club a lot of them together, then you're going to have a critical mass so you can attract international investors. So that's one thing. The second thing is logistics. If you can come up with a way that logistics is easier between the borders of these countries and free flow of goods is made easier, that's going to lead to a lot of efficiencies. So that's another area which we think is worth working on.
IFC was founded on a bold idea that the private sector is essential to development, reach millions of people in more than 100 countries, creating jobs, raising living standards, and building a better future to support the World Bank Group's 2 goals, ending extreme poverty and boosting shared prosperity.